Hello, welcome back to Nails by Sora. Happy to have you here. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for joining me. If you are new to this channel, thank you for joining me. I hope you stay. Please pull up a seat, get comfy, because today we are dealing with blooming gel. It's also called blossom gel. Basically, its entire intent is to help pigments spread across the nail to bloom, and you can use it to create different patterns. And in a lot of videos recently and going back over the past few years, it's been used a lot to create these 3D rose effects. So that was the intent of this video, and I did eventually accomplish it, though not without quite a bit of trial and error. It's one of those things, if you've watched my other video where I did 3D acrylic roses, and I said it was, or flowers rather, I said that, it turned out to be a lot easier than I was anticipating. Well, this one was the opposite. This one turned out to be a lot more, not difficult, but confusing than I originally expected. And you can see kind of what's going on here. I started out using a pudding gel, but it was really too thick to really take advantage of the blooming gel, and it wasn't spreading at all. And so I was getting these really thin lines that just kind of stayed weird and thin and didn't spread. So I discarded that nail and put it aside to start again. And I was watching some tutorials while I was doing it, and this is kind of, the first portion of this is kind of sped up to about 300% because there's no reason to sit and watch me do something the wrong way. And while I did get some interesting blooming effects, it wasn't really what I was going for, but I was watching someone else do it at the same time, and I wasn't getting what she was doing at first. Because if you look at a rose, roses go in, their petals form in odd numbers. So you have the central petal, then you've got 3 that surround the center, then 5, then 7. They go in odd numbers, increasing the larger the flower is. So what I was doing was creating these swirls that go from a center point outward, trying to focus on odd numbers, but I didn't realize that, and this is where I first started to get it right, was that when you pull in one direction, you then have to pull in the opposite direction. And by that, I mean, once you create the swipe, the point where you first place the pigment is going to be the widest, and it's going to bloom the widest. So once you pull, you drag the pigment, let's say you're pulling it to the right, you have to go back to the central point where you first place down the pigment, the larger, I guess, to put it not so delicately, the head of the sperm, since that's kind of what it looks like, and pull that point to the left to create that kind of U shape of it, the widest part of the flower petal going outward, and then the edges of it coming back in towards the center of the rose. So once I realized that that's what you have to do, I was having an easier job of it. And then what I really needed to focus on was not drawing my lines so spread apart. I was so worried about them overlapping and the pigments spreading too much that I was placing them too far apart. And then it just looked like lines around a circle versus petals overlapping one another. So this is where I'm saying, you pull in one direction, then you go back to the center, and you pull back in the opposite direction. So I drew the line, then I turned the nail around, and I went back to the largest part of the petal, the widest part, and I dragged it in the opposing direction to get it to bloom both ways. And once I figured that out, it was a little bit easier to achieve the desired effect. I don't think I actually still got it to look the way I was hoping it would, but definitely moving in the right direction. So I started out doing all in white paint against a dark background, and then I glazed over it to kind of create that effect of shadow going in towards the center of the rose as the petals are joining at the stem. Now this one I think is my favorite out of the three that are in the picture. Unfortunately, it didn't really photograph too well, but you can see it really well in the video. The dispersion of the pigment through the blossom gel. Just, it really spread very well, and it created this great depth of focus. The patterns that it was creating as it was spreading, I think, are just gorgeous, and green is my favorite color, so it's no wonder that this is my one of my favorites out of the three. I did try going over it with a pearlescent green, but it was a little too opaque, so I ended up wiping it off because it completely destroyed the look of the rose. But easily this one did come out the best. It ended up looking the most like a rose out of all three of them, and I really do wish it photographed better than it did. For this one, I was trying to think a little bit outside the box. I knew I wanted glitter on it, so I took some of this micro glitter by Magpie Beauty. I don't remember the name of it off the bat, but I will put all the information down below in the description box. But basically, I'm just burnishing it into the surface of the nail by rubbing it so that all of the extra glitter falls off and it leaves behind that really pretty holographic sheen. So once that's done, I cured it, and then I went over it with the blossom gel, and now I'm going back in with black so that the glitter shows in the negative spaces. And while I do think this one turned out well, I still think that the green rose came out the best out of all three of them. The black kind of was occluding a lot of the holographic glitter, and it didn't show up as much as I was hoping to in the end. I tried wiping away some of the black once I got all of the petals in, but it's hard to remove the pigment once you start. You either have to wipe it all and start over again, or just, you know, deal with it the way it is. And I do like it. I just, where the first few that I was doing at the beginning of the video, the lines were a little too thin. I think these went down a little too thick, and it ended up a little lit. I cannot speak tonight. It ended up a little heavier than what I was going for. So, in an effort to try to bring out some of that gold holographic glitter, I went back in with Madame Glam's gold glitter, gold gel paint, and I was just going around the edging of the petals to accentuate them. I don't know if it helped it or made it just a little bit more busy, but at least you can now see that it's a rose. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you everyone for joining me once again. I really do appreciate it. Please leave any comments down below with any suggestions, questions, comments. I think I said that already. Please give me a like and a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you're always notified whenever new videos are available. And I will see you in the next video.